Welcome everybody. For the benefit of those who don't know me, my name is Lee Manning, one of the partners here, and I've been dealt with the beautiful task of trying to get Making Tax Digital up and running within the practice and converting clients over from manual Excel records and desktop systems over to the cloud, predominantly Xero and other packages, in which we'll talk about later on. So regarding, and also just before we start, there is the Q&A button on your desktop through Zoom. So if you have any questions at all, please put it on the Q&A, and I will then deal with them at the end, because I'm sure you're going to have quite a lot of questions specific to your business needs. And also, before we also, what I'll do is I'll introduce about a little bit of background of Making Tax Digital, just to sort of lay the foundations, and then I'll have a little poll. And once I've got everybody coming on board, just to see where people are with their bookkeeping system and be able to address some specific questions. So, Making Tax Digital. This is the timeline, and believe it or not, only I think yesterday, the day before, with the spring budget or the spring statement, there was announcement of what they're doing going forward with Making Tax Digital, which for some people is good news. So this is where we are. The pilot stops at the end of March and beginning of April. MTD kicks in live for those businesses over the VAT threshold, £85,000. And you've got to keep these digital records and send it to HMRC via compatible software. So we've had quite a few clients go on the pilot. We've tested the pilot. It doesn't help that HMRC are changing the setup and the application process virtually on a daily basis. So at the beginning, it was a right pain, the information they were asking, but only yesterday a client went on the pilot, and literally within about 2 minutes, she got that email saying you've got to wait 72 hours before being approved, and the next day she got approval. So they seem to have woken up to the fact that they should be making this as easy as possible for businesses. So that's where we are, 2019, 2020 and beyond. Now this is the important bit. So obviously you guys, if you're VAT registered, you've got to do this. You've got no choice. You've got to move over. The 2020 and beyond is then catching everybody else. So that was the landlords, the sole traders, the subcontractors, those maybe not-for-profit organisations. So those guys that weren't caught by the VAT limit, 2020 was the date that they would then had to be sort of mandated to keep digital records. But yes, the other day, spring statement, 2021 will be the earliest. So we've got a couple of years for those guys. And also at the same time, that means that the quarterly financial reporting requirements that is the whole point of introducing this MTD, again, will not come in until 2021. So that, and I'll explain why, what HMRC's big picture plan is, and that is the next stage is to submit quarterly financial information, not just the 9 figures on your VAT return to HMRC on a quarterly basis via your bookkeeping system. So just to recap, which I've just explained, you have got some exempt businesses. We've actually got quite, well, not too many, but older clients that haven't even got a smartphone or a computer. We've applied for them to be exempt, but they are over the VAT limit. So those guys don't have to comply until 2021. So it makes their life a little bit easier. I can't see why you would want to opt in if you're below the VAT limit. If you're below £85,000 and VAT registered, some people are on that basis. You don't have to comply with MTD, but some people can opt in if they want to. Once you're in, you're in. There's no turning back. There's no way you can come out of MTD once HMRC have accepted you. You must file it through your HMRC. You must file it through your software, not through the gateway that you've been doing up till now. What I think we'll do now, what would be quite a nice point is that I'm going to run a poll because it'd be really interesting to see what software people are using. So very shortly, you should get a poll. Can you just spend a minute or so just answering the question about what software you're actually currently using? So it'd be good to know if people are already using Xero or Excel or any other system. Thank you. I can see them all coming in. So I've got about 30 odd people on this webinar. I've got about 20 people have just answered the question. Any more would be handy just to get a feel. So as you can see, leading the pack is Excel, which is a bit worrying. But I can talk about how Excel works with MTD as part of the webinar. So yeah, so we've got 57% of those attending this webinar using Excel as their main bookkeeping system, Xero 14, Sage 10, other cloud software 14, and free agent nobody, and QuickBooks 1 person. So thank you very much for that. That gives me good information. Those guys using cloud-based systems, you're well, not halfway there, you're 90% of the way there to comply with MTD. And as we go through the webinar, you'll see what needs to be done just to finalize the MTD. Right, so from the 1st of April, any VAT returns that need to be filed after then, you won't be able to do through the gateway, and you've got to file it through MTD software. And there was a whole issue at the beginning when MTD was introduced or talked about spreadsheets. At the beginning, spreadsheets weren't going to be part of digital records, but obviously under lobbying, and HMRC changed their minds, and now it does meet digital requirements. However, there are certain things you have to do, and that is your digital links. Now, what this means is that you can't have a manual records and then summarize those manual records onto an Excel spreadsheet and then file it through MTD. So what they're saying is you have to input transaction by transaction into Excel. So there's certain things that have to be in Excel, which you would do normally anyway. You would put your date, the supplier or customer name, the amount, those type of things, and VAT, you would put that in there anyway. What they don't want people to do is use it to summarize your records and then submit it through MTD. That is not a digital link. Now, what they have said is that they're going to have a soft landing. So you can cut and paste, and you can summarize from manual records or from other records for 1 year only. So between now and April 2020, they're not going to be that fussed about this digital link applying. But from 2020, you have to then have these digital links. So they're basically giving people time to get their bookkeeping and Excel systems sort of working properly to enable you to file through MTD. And going forward, it's not a problem. You can carry on using Excel. And they haven't said you need to stop. However, there are huge benefits, which we'll talk about later, of using a cloud-based bookkeeping system. You will have an issue if you're using Excel when 2021, they then ask for quarterly financial information. To get that from Excel is going to be a pain in the backside. You would need a bookkeeping system. So really, to be honest, Excel, okay, you've got 2 years to get sort of your new software put in place for the next 2 years using Excel. So these are the digital record keeping you must keep. Obviously, the business name, address, VAT, any accounting schemes that you're using. So that's what I was talking about before. Supplies made. For each supply, you must record the time, the date, value, and the rate charged. And the same on the other side when you're receiving, obviously, supplies received, which expenses and so forth. And you can use, they have said you can keep hard copy receipts. You don't have to have them digitally. So as long as you've got the hard copies as you do now, there's not a problem. You don't have to use Receipt Bank or any other software to capture receipt. That is not part of Make Attach Digital. That is not keeping digital records. So you can still carry on as normal. Obviously, there's huge benefits using Receipt Bank, where it automatically scans from maybe taking a picture, all the information on the receipt, and sucks that information automatically into your bookkeeping system, saves you entering all of that data in. The technology is doing that automatically. So there are benefits for using electronic software. Special schemes, I'm not sure if anyone is involved in special schemes, but these are sort of the digital records you need to keep or not keep. If you've got special schemes, retail schemes, anyone in retail, you have to keep a digital record of your sales. So through a EPOS system, you need to keep your daily gross take-ins. So again, that could be quite radical for those guys who aren't keeping digital records of their take-ins if they're in the retail scheme. Flat rate, you don't need to keep digital records. As I said before, you can keep hard copies. That's not a problem. Anyone dealing in gold, there's certain things that you must keep from a digital perspective. And margin schemes, which is quite handy for those car dealers or maybe auction houses or anybody selling second-hand goods. Again, you don't need to keep those records digitally. You can still keep manual records or Excel to monitor everything to do with your buying and selling the goods. So a little bit more on the software that's out there. So as most of you know, Xero, QuickBooks Online, Cashflow, I think they're the main leaders in the market. Free Agent, no one's really using, and Sage One, a few people have started to use. So they're sort of the top 5 bits of software that you can implement in your business to make you compliant. So as I said before, the benefits, there are huge benefits of going cloud and using a cloud-based system. And all of these link into your bookkeeping system. So if you can link in your PayPal and FideliPay systems into Xero or something like that, and to enable clients to pay at a click of a button any invoices that are owed to you. So again, you can see how that would make a massive difference. Receipt Bank, we talked about scanning invoices. Chaser is another great product. If you've got, if you're chasing debts or you give credit to your customers, Chaser is a really neat bit of software that will chase your debts via email, and you can bespoke and tailor those emails to your clients' circumstances, and you can also agree when they're going to be sent out. Really good, saves a huge amount on the credit control, and then obviously get really good reports on the back of that. Workflow Max is, again, it's a time management system, which is really good if you're managing projects and want to see how you're doing on each project. Xero has its own inbuilt projects module, very basic. Same with the stock system, it has a very basic stock system. Anything more advanced, you then go and build on the back of that. Xero, if you go to their website, to their marketplace, have approximately 700 plus add-on bits of software where they've got their open API to help you improve the efficiency in your business using all the tech that's out there. Definitely worth having a look on that. So these are sort of the next steps. This is the important bit. You've got to make a decision whether you want to comply with MTD by going through the pilot now. So we've got 2 weeks before it goes live. Some people are doing that just rather than waiting for it once they're in the regime of doing it. So you can go through and register now. You'll get an email. They have improved the registration. You do need to put your email address, which you activate, and you must have your gateway login and password. So if you don't know that, you should know that, because if you're submitting through the gateway, you need to enter that information anyway. So you should have that information. So it's up to you whether you want to register on the pilot. The only word of advice would be that don't do it if you're in the quarter or near filing your VAT return. You really want to do it as you've finished the previous return. If you finished it, paid it, then obviously you've got 3 months to the next one. That's maybe when the time you want to then join the pilot and get registered. And there's the link if you want to register through HMRC. Using spreadsheets, right? So if you are using spreadsheets, you're going to have to buy a bit of software that enables you to file your VAT return via Excel into HMRC. You won't be able to do it through the gateway. So these are two that we've come across. The cost, I think, is about 50 quid a year to buy the software for both of them. So you have to then install that. You have to then obviously get your information from your VAT return onto that software, that then you create the API link and transmit your VAT return to HMRC. Again, you still got to go through the registration. Even if you're using a cloud-based system like Xero and you're on the gateway, that does not mean you are MTD compliant. You're MTD compliant from bookkeeping software, but you have to register. So a lot of people have emailed me saying, I assume I'm on Xero, I don't need to do anything. No, you do. You have to register. It's a separate registration. You have to then tell revenue, and they link, then they can link your software to HMRC. So I can't stress the importance of registering. You don't want to then leave it to the last minute. You're trying to file your VAT return and you can't because you haven't registered. All right. So if anything, you get anything from today's presentation, just think about the time of when you want to register. You either do it now, the pilot, or you wait till you've done the VAT return, and you must make a note, I need to register MTD. And we're here to help if you have any issues registering, or you need your company UTR number, which you might need, then let us know, and we will help you. So the next steps, so this is quite important as well. So these are the dates that are coming up regarding your filing return. So if you're doing a March VAT return to the end of this month, all right, this will be your last VAT return you file under the old system. Your next return will be June, obviously filed by the 7th of August. So the first batch of VAT returns that were going to be filed is the 30th of June. The next, obviously, will be July and August. So try and work out when your VAT return ends, and then you will get a feel for when you will be compliant and when you need to register and file your VAT return under MTD. And one thing, just to add, regarding what information HMRC can see, what information can they access now that these API links are working. And a lot of, I get asked quite a few times, can HMRC dig into my Xero and start looking at the information that is backing up the VAT return? And categorically, they cannot do that. And they've said that they're not even interested in doing that. The whole reason, and also, it's a bit strange that the way that MTDs come about, because all you're submitting is the same 9 figures that you do on the original VAT return. So the information being sent to HMRC is exactly the same, no different whatsoever. What has changed is the method of submitting your VAT return. So whereas before it was going through the gateway, logging into the HMRC's gateway and then submitting those 9 figures, now it's all through your bookkeeping system, and the API link works, and you press submit, straight away it's then HMRC know what your 9 figures are on the VAT return. So you think they've gone through all of this trouble to get the same 9 figures. Now, what we do know that's coming is that they're testing, the whole point of this is over the next year, 2 years, is that they're going to test and refine this product and the API link and how this all works, with a view that you're then submitting quarterly financial information via your cloud-based system. That's their bigger picture, and they've not hidden it, they've not sort of denied that that's what they want to do. They've made it very clear they want all these businesses to file quarterly returns, companies to do it through corporation tax, individuals through their self-assessment tax return. They want it filed quarterly. They haven't mentioned about moving the corporation tax payment dates. They're still going to keep that to 9 months after the year end, but I would imagine that will change over time, over the years. That it seems a bit bizarre that the self-employed pay literally in advance, 6 months, a year in advance of next year's tax. Companies pay 9 months in arrears. So I got a feeling with MTD they will start changing that and making that a little bit more efficient. So that's where we are in MTD. Really, that's it. Hopefully most of you have got a cloud-based system. If you're not, Excel is fine, but just be warned, you've got to put things in place, maybe not now, but maybe in a year's time, to really start thinking about moving away from Excel onto a decent system. But for now, nothing wrong with it. And you've got this soft landing period for the next year where you can still use it, cut and paste, and do stuff through that VAT filer system. You still must get that VAT filer system. But next year, you've got to really think about, right, do we carry on using Excel, or do we go onto another system? I do have a question. I'm using QuickBooks Desktop. How does that work? So what you must do, if you're using bespoke software that's not on the cloud, you need to contact your software supplier and ask them, is the version I'm using MTD compliant? I would imagine, so for example, I know Sage Desktop, you can upgrade the desktop system, still be desktop, and it's still MTD compliant. So it's not on the cloud, but you can still file your VAT return through their system. So you need to contact your provider. They will then tell you and whether you need to upgrade. Just be careful. QuickBooks Desktop doesn't look anything like QBO QuickBooks Online. The two systems look completely different. It's like buying a brand new bookkeeping system. So just be aware of that, and also whether you want to migrate all the data from desktop to the online system. So you really need to get in touch with QuickBooks, and they will guide you what's the best thing to do. When will the gateway be switched off? So the gateway will be switched off. So the first returns really will be the 30th of June. They're the first returns that get submitted. Nothing will get submitted before then. So really, if you're doing a June quarter and you try to file it on the gateway, it won't let you. You just won't be able to do it. Or if you do it, it will be an error message. We're not really sure yet, but it just will not allow you to file through the gateway. Also, when you register for MTD, as I said before, if you register for MTD, you're not even able to file through the gateway. It just will let you file it. The system seems to know that you've registered for MTD and will sort of warn you need to file it through your software system. Right, so there's a few people that we register. If we're doing your bookkeeping and we're at the moment submitting your VAT returns on your behalf, yes, we will continue to do that. We're just going through the process of deciding whether we want to get our clients who we act for as an agent to go on the pilot or wait till after the 1st of April. So we're in sort of two minds to what to do, because we've got to register every client individually on MTD. So you can imagine that's quite a task for us. So clients will be getting emails to confirm their email address with HMRC and activate the MTD account. So we're just going through that. So the only thing that clients will see where we're doing the VAT return is just to activate their MTD account, and most of ours are done on Xero. We will file it through Xero as normal through MTD. So it takes a lot of pressure off those guys where we're doing the bookkeeping. Yes, that's a great question, Dave. QBO Desktop 16 not compliant and don't really want to upgrade to 2019. Can I download the VAT report to Excel and then upload to bridging software? Yes, for 1 year. So that's the soft landing. So you can do it until 2020. Then after that, you can't. You then have to you need to upgrade your QBO. So they've given you sort of a year to sort it out, but you can do that for a year, not beyond that. Philip, we use Xero, but you file our VAT returns. I assume I don't need to do anything. Yep, so I've covered that already. Again, you'll just get an email confirming MTD. Lisa, we are registered for VAT, but currently under the threshold. So yeah, so if you're under the threshold, under the 85, but you are VAT registered, you don't have to register for MTD. To be honest, I would opt in and do it now. You might as well. Right, so the only problem with that, then, if you're using Excel and you opt in to MTD, you then need to buy that bit of software to file it. At the moment, you don't need to register for MTD because your threshold, your VAT limit, and your turnover is below 85 grand. You would have an issue if you hit the limit and went over the limit, then it's down to you to register straight away. But it's entirely up to you. You might want to wait the year or the 2 years until it's mandatory for all businesses. Hi, Clive. We are registered with recovery input VAT, but below. Okay, so I've covered that. Yep, so you don't need to register for MTD. You've got to be over that 85,000 threshold limit. Sorry, so Vincent, is there any point using the VAT file as soft landing for a year when ultimately we will need to completely change anyway? Yeah, 100%. That's what we're trying to get clients. So really, an example would be where maybe I've got a client looking to retire. Do you know what I mean? He's looking to sell the business and he's on Excel or closing the business in 6 months' time. Absolutely no point migrating over to Xero or cloud system. Fine for the 6 months. Yeah. Obviously, if it's a sizable business, if you then move to the cloud, you've got all the benefits of using a cloud-based system, like Receipt Bank, like the reporting system, and like everything else that you can connect to Xero. Is really powerful. So you might find that it could make your business more efficient, using Chaser for chasing up your debts, which is really powerful as well. So there's not just an MTD reason for moving. It can be it will help your business. If we use VAT filer, won't that be acceptable in 1-2 years, as you said? Yes, 100%. So you can use you can carry on using Excel, and you can use the VAT filer as long as you're recording all your transactions in Excel. No problem at all. It's where you're using Excel to maybe summarize the figures and then filing your VAT return. So no problem carrying on for the next 1-2 years using Excel. Absolutely no problem at all. The problem will be when they want quarterly returns, quarterly financial information. At that time, you might then want to look at it and reconsider it. So yeah, I've got clients, property clients, much smaller clients, happy just doing Excel, maybe like consultants where they're raising 3 invoices a month, the expenses aren't very big, on Excel, no problem, carry on doing that. To be honest, it's not even worth maybe moving to Xero and the hassle that goes with Xero, carry on using Excel. If you have a not-for-profit deferment to 2020, can you still use government gateway filing register entity until 2020? Yeah, so I think what's happening is that the revenue HMRC are writing to clients. They seem to know who can be deferred until 2020, and you can continue to use the gateway. There's no issue with that at all. Yeah, so yeah, when you go through the registration form, HMRC asks you, do you have accounting software for managing your VAT records? And you will type yes. It doesn't ask you what system you use. It's just making sure that you're using either Excel or a cloud-based system, Excel with the VAT filer, and you can then file it through the system. So yes, definitely say yes to that. Yeah, correct. And using the bridging software is yes to that as well. Right. So what we're finding with Xero, if you've done the pilot and you need to file your VAT return, your next VAT returns for MTD, and Xero haven't yet updated their module, there's a separate link that takes you to Xero's pilot to file your VAT return. So what we're hoping, and what I assume will happen from the 1st of April, Xero will send an update out, and your VAT return module through Xero will look completely different, and you will have to then file it through Xero. And at the moment, you go on there, it looks exactly the same. There is a link that if anyone needs to file their next VAT return through Xero, I can send them the link, or again, just go onto the help section on Xero, and it will then show you where that link is. So that's coming. And I know it's a bit weird when you would have thought that Xero would have changed their VAT module now, I'd imagine, to be compliant, but I think it's this whole pilot going live issue. So I think we're all going to wait to the 1st of April, log on and just see if that's actually happened. So hopefully that's answered your question. Cool, I've got no other questions coming through. So thank you all for listening. If you do have any specific questions, then email me or call me and I can go through any issues. We are recording this webinar if you did need, for any reason, to listen to it again, which I doubt very much. But hopefully you've got enough information, and hopefully it sort of made you realise that it's not as bad as it all seems. Sorry, just very quickly, Sam's just said, do I need to register before the zero update? It's up to you. It really is. You can register now through the pilot. Once you get registered, your next VAT return you can file through zero, no problem at all. So it's up to you. As I said, some people just waiting for after the 1st of April, and some doing it through now. So entirely up to you. Just got to watch your dates. That's the only thing I'm saying to people, is watch the dates. So you've got to watch really carefully, right? So if I'm going to file my VAT return the end of March, yeah, so maybe the 7th of April, I wouldn't register for MTD now. Right, I would file my return, pay the money on the 7th of April. Within a couple of days, then I'll then register for MTD. So I know my next quarter I'm under the scheme. So don't do it when you're close to completing your return or the payment is due to come out. And I think HMRC won't actually let you register. It will tell you that you need to wait. But it's just getting the timings right. And registration is a one-off registration, and once it's done, it will be like filing your VAT return through the gateway. It will be fairly easy and really quite painless. So thanks for listening. Anything else, let me know. Thank you very much. Goodbye.